Ladies and gentlemen, has the Xbox One become a failure if we judge it by the original vision intended by Microsoft? In this Red Gaming Telecom video, we'll be tackling that exact point. But before we proceed, it's important to understand failure in this case isn't judged by sales figure of the console or even the popularity, but by an altogether different metric. Did the console evolve into a vision or potential that originally was intended by Microsoft? And before you all get upset that I'm stealing the Xbox's lunch money, I'll be doing very similar videos for the PlayStation 4 too. And probably each and every other platform. No one is safe, not you, or even you, John. I don't actually know if your name is John, but if it isn't, spare a moment for those poor freaked out viewers right now. So this discussion has been in the news a lot recently. Jim Sterling recently released a video on The Escapist with the provocative title, "The Xbox One, a lying failure machine," and other websites such as VG247 are running with provocative names like "Trust No One," Microsoft burning bridges with fans and developers. In Jim's video, he points out the console has strayed far from its original intention, and indeed is of the opinion that Microsoft have lied to their customers, us, several times over. The always online DRM could be turned off. Kinect could be disabled. There was an Xbox Kinectless bundle eventually launched for the Xbox One, meaning customers who'd bought the Kinected version, if you excuse the pun, possibly ended up paying $100 or so premium for a part they just didn't want, need, or even worse, no longer really is going to be supported. Taking a slight detour into DRM town, by the way, you guys should check out Angry Joe's interview with Larry Herb from June 2013. Joe asked him why you can't disable DRM. It should be fairly easy. Larry then asked if he was from the development team and said it's a little bold to say it's easy. The biggest fear, aside from a lack of being able to trade in games, after all, GameStop need their money to help purchase exclusive pre-orders, was the Xbox servers being shut down and no more access to the games. It's a valid concern perhaps, despite it being easy to go around for Microsoft. And a few wonder what happens if you buy digital games on the PSN and then Sony decides to stop supporting that console or the PlayStation Network. Then again, it's likely we're just more thankful Sony haven't given out our personal details again and forgot to tell us about it. Developers have taken to Twitter, fairly unhappy with Microsoft, developing their titles with the illusion Kinect would be part of the Xbox One experience, and now Kinectless Xbox Ones have been released. Will their games suffer? Will their sales figures suffer? Microsoft are keen to point out they continue to support Kinect, the use of the old line of choice, which is decoupling. But two things strike me. Firstly, does anyone truly believe Microsoft will give Kinect the support it would have had, or instead let it fade out of memory? Hopefully not like Windows ME though, eh? Secondly, if choice was a concern, why did you tell us for months that it couldn't be decoupled? In interviews it was routinely stated it was built around it, it was integral, no magic switch. Well, I guess they finally constructed one then. In the VG247 article, with the collapse of Microsoft TV Studios, their promise of the Xbox One being the centre of your entertainment living room is also beginning to make less and less sense. At least that's what the author states. Understand, I love Microsoft as a company. I was one of those people who bought the original Xbox. I bought an Xbox 360 on launch and so on. And there's few who can deny that Microsoft have stepped up their game to showcase titles too. E3 was impressive display for Microsoft, and while analysts and journalists will argue until the cows come home who actually won, there is a debate now. At the last E3, no debate could be had. It was a slaughterhouse. And the Xbox One, followed by the hopes and dreams, would be the ones on the chopping block. So the Xbox One will sell well, and I believe the team who made the system are talented. I believe the games on the system is good. Hell, I'm even actually slightly keen on the interface, but then I don't feel like puking when I use Windows 8. So my opinion is likely shitty when it comes to OS looks and functionality. But if you judge the system based on what Microsoft had hoped, it's hard not to agree that it hadn't gone as well as they'd hoped. The saddest part for me, however, isn't the loss of the TV or Kinect. It's about what could have been. Personally, I was pleasantly surprised by the low price of the PlayStation 4. I'd almost consider it to be about the cheapest I could have hoped for the next generation system. In fact, I'd expected the Xbox One to be the standard next generation pricing. Of course, the reason for this was they decided to throw the extra cash at Kinect. The inclusion of Kinect, which has lowered the hardware specs as a direct result, is a shame. Imagine that extra $100 had gone instead into additional GPU cores, faster RAM and so on. I've often said that I don't personally find myself particularly impressed, however, with the specs of either console. Despite the PS4 being media's darling, and the one often cited to be impressive or possessing next-generation graphics, let's just be brutally honest here. It's not as powerful as we'd hoped, or developers has hoped. The 1.84 teraflops of compute power isn't impressive when you compare it to even a middling PC GPU, let alone the next generation ones which are going to be coming out in a few months' time. Sure, it's benefited from a closed OS and a system, but that's reasons that Epic has had to change their Unreal 4 engine to, for example, lower the lighting with SVOGI and actually remove it. Despite the interview's pantage literally dripping over the 8 GB of unified memory for the PS4, few mention that only 5 GB of that is usable. So, my thoughts are this. The crux of the argument is that Microsoft bet big on the future of the Xbox, and some of the original plans just haven't worked out. There's no shame in that. The console specs have suffered as a result, but the games will still rock. It's great they're fixed with the issues with the console, but some of this stuff just shouldn't have happened in the first place, and the saddest part is, I truly and honestly believe that if they'd have released a games-focused console with all of this stuff as optional extras, like for example the Kinect, they'd have possibly outdone Sony. As it is, they're on the back foot, and they're trying to gain momentum, and members of the press and gamers alike worry they simply cannot trust Microsoft. So there you have it. While both systems are arguing over content exclusives, we are the customers who have to vote with our wallet and make the right decision for you. Neither console is a bad purchase, both have their faults and both have their great upcoming games. But this is not a victory for gamers, despite us believing it and celebrating it. Instead, we just got business as usual. So this isn't a victory, we've just managed to not get screwed over even further. The Xbox One is perhaps not what Microsoft had hoped for, perhaps not what we had hoped for, but it's turned out the best it could have given the circumstances, and with any luck, they and we have learned valuable lessons. Their console has a great OS updates, routinely released features as promised, which is something that Sony are still apparently working on with stability and implementing new features. I really can't wait to see the hype of the next generation Nintendo console and if it lives up to it. That'll be a lot of fun, right? After all, Nintendo has a habit of being able to get away with something that if either Microsoft or Sony had pulled, they would have probably had a lynch mob after them. Anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed the video, and if your blood pressure has been raised substantially throughout this video, I would recommend you check with your doctor. Before you view another video, of course. Anyway, I'll see you soon, take care, and bye for now.